The psychologist and linguist Steven Pinker says that language is a window into human nature, and that as writers, we reveal that human nature with each new word choice, sentence structure, and poetic device. So what does your writing say about you?
Collective human creation reflecting human nature, how we conceptualize reality, how we relate to one another, and that by analyzing the various quirks and complexities of language, I think we can get a window onto what makes us tick.
When Pinker says what makes us tick, he's referring to the original emotional motivation for writing, or for that matter, saying anything at all. The theory being, he says, that whenever we choose to externalize an internal thought, that decision to communicate something, it's got to be motivated by a deeper feeling or a deeper need. Now, ready for what's really interesting? This is the zinger for Pinker. He says that the same thing is happening when we read. Why? Because we're choosing to consume information based on those deeper emotional motivations as well. And that fact right there, it's the foundation for the magic of literature, and honestly, for that matter, just about all good writing. You see, good writing happens when a reader intuitively understands the writer's deeper emotional motivation for creating that piece. And good writing happens when it's the same motivation that the reader has for coming to that piece. It's this raw connection, this connection that transcends time and space, which synthesizes verbal and emotional communication, that allows us to both cry over Shakespeare or reel in horror when we read Poe. And that's why Pinker argues that if you want your essay, your article, whatever it is that you're writing, to successfully both connect and to resonate with your reader, you gotta first understand the deeper motivations that are driving you to write that piece in the first place. And sometimes the best way to find it is just by telling other people about your writing. Ask them, what do you think my piece is about? What emotions am I trying to convey? And I think Pinker describes it really well right here.
I think is a fundamental feature of human thought, and it's the basis for much human argumentation, in which people don't differ so much on the facts as on how they ought to be construed.
Okay, so what's Pinker saying here? He's saying that if you write something like invading Iraq versus liberating Iraq, or redistributing wealth versus confiscating earnings, you reveal your personal stance on the issue. Now, this doesn't mean that you should just write highly subjective and opinionated op-ed pieces full of emotional bias. That's not the point here. The point is that most writers who struggle, they just don't know how they feel about what they're writing about. And so they hide behind this overly stylized, verbose, academic writing in an attempt to distance themselves from their piece. They're scared of it. And in the end, it ends up alienating most readers. But if you want your writing to resonate with your audience, if you want your writing to have an impact, you gotta first do the work to figure out your own feelings about your subject material. What are you trying to say here? What emotion are you trying to convey? And why are you putting pen to paper, fingers to keyboard in the first place? And then after all that, why should somebody read what you have to say? And don't forget, you can actually figure a lot of this stuff out through writing, taking notes, or freeform journaling about a subject. They're both good ways to understand your emotional relationship to it. And then once you've done that journaling, that note-taking, you can then turn your attention outward. Pinker, he'll tell you that what unites most bad writing is just a lack of regard for the reader. And he warns us to beware of the curse of knowledge, which is when you know something so well that you don't even remember what it's like to not know it. You know, one example that comes to mind is when you're in school, you're sitting in class and a professor is just rambling on and on and on about the intricacies of some subject that they're an expert in, that they've been studying for years. And you're sitting there in your seat, you're just trying to wrap your head around the introductory ideas. And as a consumer of ideas, of information, as a student, you feel unseen, uncared for, disregarded, and that's exactly how your readers are gonna feel if you're writing like they know everything. But look, there's a balance here. You don't wanna treat your readers like they're stupid, because that's not gonna help you either. So then, how do you actually find the balance?
It all begins with a model of effective prose communication. As I have been emphasizing, writing is an unnatural act, and good style must begin with a coherent mental model of the communication scenario, how the writer imagines the reader, and what the writer is trying to accomplish.
Pinker's preferred communication style, the classic style, was first developed by two literary theorists, Francis Noel Thomas and Mark Turner, in their book Clear and Simple as the Truth, which dictates that writing should be a conversation between the writer and the reader. And the ingredients of classic style are this: prose is the window onto the world, that the writer has seen something in the world that the reader has not yet noticed, that the writer positions the reader so that she can see it with her own eyes, that the writer and the reader are equals, and that the goal is to help the reader see objective reality, and they should do that in a conversational style. And Pinker has implemented these tenets of writing into all of his work, and I think that's why his books are so popular. Think about how many academics have written books about their areas of expertise, and how few of them have multiple New York Times bestsellers like Pinker. From Pinker, I've learned that you don't need to be a psychologist or a linguist or to even be that passionate about these subjects to enjoy Pinker's writing. And why? Because he's following his own advice here. In his writing, he breaks down complex ideas in a way that entertains, educates, and also respects the intelligence of the average reader. Think about it. Good communication is clear. When you're talking about something that you know a lot about, that you feel confident in, you speak clearly. But then things change once we feel a little anxious. We try to dress up our language and speak with all kinds of $10 SAT words that, yeah, they'd impress your high school English teacher, but you know what? To the reader, they show that you're insecure about your ideas, and it just makes it hard to understand what you're saying. Steven Pinker says in his book, The Sense of Style, the one that's all about writing, that when you use your writing to build trust, be yourself, and connect deeply with your reader, you create a form of beauty. And for another video on how to improve your writing, click here to watch my video on how to take notes like Kendrick Lamar.